Hello world, welcome back to Razor RC. It's time to do another review, this time of the Losi Tenacity MT. This is a 1/10 scale electric monster truck, ready to run. Comes with all the electronics except for the battery. You will need to buy the battery yourself. So this I picked up on sale for $249. I think they basically cleared these things out, so it may be hard to find one of these now, but this truck was originally $400 about a year and a half ago, and then they dropped the price this past winter down to $249. So decided I had to pick one of these up at that price, and so yeah, it was a pretty good bargain. So I've been running this for about the last month, doing a lot of bashing on 2S, 3S, driving it in all sorts of conditions, and jumping it, running it on the ground and on dirt, pavement, all kinds of stuff. So been having a lot of fun with this truck and thought I'd do the review. So I'm going to rate this truck in a bunch of different categories, ranging of a score from 1 to 5 stars. So 5 stars being obviously excellent, 3 stars average, and 1 stars would be very poor. So first off, I want to talk about is actually the radio. So the radio that comes with this is a Spectrum DX2E Active. Pretty decent little radio, not super fancy, but certainly above average, more adjustments than normal. It does have the AVC, which is Spectrum's version of stability control to keep you in a straight line. Also has sort of this throttle management switch where you can go from high, medium, low speeds with the flick of a switch. A lot easier than trying to adjust endpoints, that kind of thing. The thing I really don't like about this radio is the steering wheel. This hard plastic radio kind of sucks. If you can find an aftermarket steering wheel with some foam on it, I think it makes it quite a bit better. But overall, I generally don't use, I have a DX5C that is also compatible with this receiver, so I've been running that. That's the radio. And so yeah, on to the review. So the first category I want to talk about is the build, and that is how it comes from the factory. Was it manufactured correctly? Is it ready to run out of the box? Did I have any issues? And so I'll pop off the body real quick. So the first issue I really had with the build is that the EC was just kind of flopping around. So the servo tape they used to hold this onto the EC plate is just no good. It was not really applied properly, so I did have to re-servo tape that myself. Also had to servo tape the on-off switch, which was originally here but tended to kind of turn off on its own, so I had to relocate that. Other than that, the overall build is fine. You know, it was ready to run. One of the shock nuts had the little nylon insert back out on its own, so that out of the box wasn't quite right. And then the shocks were about half filled with fluid, which is pretty typical for an RTR, but we're not fully full. So the build overall, I'm going to give a below average score because I couldn't run it out of the box. I did have to fix some things. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. So now I want to talk about the design. And so the Tenacity MT is basically based off the 10SCTE platform. The dimensions of this chassis, these arms, everything is basically the same size as a regular short course truck. So in essence, the Tenacity MT is really a short course truck turned into a monster truck. So they just basically added bigger wheels and tires, added a big body, and then some different style bumpers. And then on the chassis side, they basically added a high center of gravity chassis. It's just a regular plastic chassis, but they raised it up higher than the other ones, I guess just to have that monster truck look. Overall, the design's pretty good. I mean, the 10SCTE line is a very good platform overall. It's got three differentials, rear, center, front, all steel drivetrain. So the center dog bones are all steel. It's got CVAs on the front and rear axles. Just a very, sealed metal gear differentials. So the drivetrain is super beefy, definitely can take some power. You can tell it's kind of derived from a race platform, so the amount of adjustments you can make with the shocks, with the arm angles and stuff like that are definitely higher than other vehicles such as the Armor line, which is more of a bash line. So Losi was kind of an interesting brand. This is my first Losi vehicle, and to me Losi traditionally meant race kits, obviously, right? So Losi is one of the older race brands that have been out there, but they've been changing over the years. So they spun off the TLR line, which is now their race line, and Losi became kind of a catch-all, it seemed like. So they have things like this, which are basically race-derived platforms. Stuff where they took some of their TLR kits and then made an RTR basher out of it, or kind of a cheaper, ready-to-run version of their race kits. So this kind of falls under that line. You can see basically their racing heritage, I guess you would say, with kind of the general layout, the amount of adjustments and stuff are still definitely more on the race side. It's not a full-on basher in my opinion. This is kind of a hybrid vehicle. But on the other hand, Losi started doing a lot of other weird things like adding crawlers, adding large-scale vehicles. They also still keep their gas and nitro vehicles under the Losi umbrella. So Losi's kind of had a bit of an identity crisis, or identity issue in my opinion. I think the traditional Losi stuff is still stuff like this, ready-to-run versions of the race kits, but kind of went in a bunch of different directions lately. So anyways, a little side note on Losi. This particular kit, yeah, I think it's quite good overall with the design. The things I don't like are basically everything to do with the chassis. So they made a high standard gravity chassis for some reason. I don't know why. You don't really need that in a monster truck. Plenty of monster trucks out there just have a standard flat chassis. And then the big one that I can't stand about this design is this battery box. So it's a bottom loading battery tray. You gotta flip this thing over, like turn this little screw, and then pop this thing open. If I can actually go the right way. And then you gotta load the battery in from the bottom. Try to feed the plugs through there, turn this thing closed, flip it over, take off the body, plug it in from here. It's just a big pain. There's really no reason to do that. In addition to that, this battery box broke on me while I was running just from landing a jump. So not a fan of that battery compartment. That's really the number one thing I can't stand about this vehicle. But overall, this kit overall I think has a really nice design. It's definitely more of a race style platform. So the design I'm actually going to give it above average rating. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. Really the only reason I'm giving it a reduction in score is because of this chassis. Okay, moving on to performance, and the performance of this truck is pretty good. It's really more of a land-based vehicle rather than a high-jumping, high-flying type basher. I attribute that to having kind of a longer chassis, higher off the ground. Really meant for just bashing and driving over things and through things and that kind of thing. The speed of this thing is pretty good. I mean, this motor is definitely not slow. The ESC is quite powerful, has a lot of adjustments. The servo is a bit on the slow side. I ended up changing that out. But overall, it's fast. It handles quite well. The suspension is actually really good on this vehicle. These shocks are plastic, but they're large bore, I think 13 millimeter bore shocks. And they're probably the best plastic shocks I've ever seen on a vehicle. I mean, definitely better than the Armor stuff, better than the Traxa stuff. So for plastic shocks, these are actually pretty good. And I had no issues with the plastic shock caps popping off. I think some of the early versions had issues with that, but mine had no problems whatsoever. So performance is quite good. Really the only issue is this motor runs hot, but there aren't adjustments for like the turnbuckles and steering links and stuff, but actually, for a basher, I think that's totally fine. You're not really going to be changing your camber. You don't really need to add any tow or reduce tow. It drives really, really well out of the box. I think they have the setup quite good. I mean, I did modify the shock oil a little bit, but other than that, I mean, it's pretty much all stock and drives really well. So performance is one of the highlights of this vehicle, 4 out of 5. All right, let's talk about the toughness and durability of this truck. And overall, I think it's a super durable truck. The general chassis, arms, plastics, wheels, tires, everything is really durable on this thing. But it does have some weaknesses. Number one, the stock body is complete crap. I mean, you will destroy that thing within 1 or 2 battery packs. Mine broke after basically one hard landing on the roof, and so I had to change that out after the first bash. So I'm basically reducing it by 1 star for that. The second thing is this battery door is not sturdy enough to carry really heavy batteries. So running like a really heavy 3S battery tended to just kind of pop through that door and break that little latch on the bottom. So I'm gonna knock it for that. And then the last thing is that really this thing runs hot. On 2S, it's not too bad. Gearing it down and playing some tricks, you can keep it, you know, around 160-ish, 170 maybe. But on 3S, it's going to hit 180, 190, 200 easily, even geared down. So it does run hot. It's really not the right motor for this vehicle. So overall, you know, I'm going to knock it another star for that. So overall, the durability of the basic platform is really high. I mean, smashing this thing, I haven't really broken much on the chassis. I think I broke a body post just from running with only 2 body clips. This front bumper is starting to go. Probably need to replace that soon, but landing some pretty serious jumps, it's held its own. So durability overall for the chassis is good, but the body, the motor, feeler, little minor things, I'm going to knock it down to 3 stars for that. So durability, 3 out of 5. Okay, so one thing you definitely want with any RC vehicle is the ability to get parts, ability to get support. Excuse me. In that area, I think the Losi is actually pretty good. I mean, it's easy to get parts. You can order stuff online. You can order stuff from your local hobby store if they don't already carry things. I did call them about that ESC issue, and they basically told me, well, just clean it off and re-servo tape it. Some of the older ESCs actually had little ears on them that you can bolt onto the ESC plate, but the newer ones don't, and they told me they would not send me a new one. But I did have some other issues, like I ordered a new battery door for the kit because I need a new latch here. So the part I ordered did not have the latch in it for some reason. I've seen pictures where it did include the latch and some did not include the latch, but I just called them out and they said, oh, okay, no problem, we'll send you another part. And so they just sent me another piece out there that did have the right piece in it. So overall, Horizon Hobby, I think, has a pretty good support system. Can take some time to get through to their call center. I've definitely been waiting on the line for like 30 minutes or more. But overall, Horizon Hobby is one of the better companies to deal with in this industry. So I'm going to give them a 4 out of 5. Okay, the next thing to talk about is maintenance, and overall the kit's fairly easy to work on. I mean, everything is out in the open, nothing's hard or recessed or difficult to get to. The center diff, you do have to pop off some like 4 screws on the top and like 5 on the bottom. These diffs, you do have to remove all these bumpers and body posts and stuff like that. So not super easy to work on, but overall fairly typical for this type of thing. So I'm going to give it 3 stars. Okay, so the Losi Tenacity MT was originally available for $400, and at that price point, it is definitely way too expensive, and I would give it a below average rating. But for what I paid, $249, I think it's actually a really good value. I mean, it's a high quality kit, definitely kind of a high-end platform that they kind of dumbed down to make an RTR out of. The radio is really good. The DX2E, definitely above average. It's got stability control. The ESC is also pretty high quality. I think it's a rebranded Hobbywing SCT Pro, if I'm not mistaken. Basically all the menus and stuff like that look exactly like the SCT Pro. A lot of adjustments if you get the Hobbywing LED card, or you can just kind of go through the LED menu system right there on the ESC. But definitely a high quality ESC. Motor pretty much is completely the wrong motor for this vehicle. Stereo is pretty typical for this type of thing, but overall the electronics are actually above average. The drivetrain is really good. You know, the things I don't like: plastic turnbuckles, plastic steering links, and then the stock body is complete garbage. So in my opinion, you're pretty much paying $250 for this truck, but then you have to spend another $40 on a new body, so it's really more in the $290 range. But overall, even at $290, I think it's a really good value. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. At $400, I would definitely give it like a 2-star rating. But at $249, I think it's a pretty good value overall. So 4 stars. Okay, so that's my review of the Losi Tenacity MT. My overall thoughts and conclusion about this vehicle are that I think it's a pretty nice performer. It's really more of a all-terrain ground type vehicle. I mean, you can do jumps and flips and stuff like that, but the longer wheelbase, you know, there's more that doesn't really like 3S kind of get in the way. So it's better just kind of driving around and doing crazy things on the ground. It is fun. I mean, I think this is actually one of my most fun RC vehicles I like to bash with. So I pretty much take this or the Granite out when I bash. Just good overall. Price point is good at $249. I definitely would not pay more than that for this truck. But I'm definitely going to be keeping this. You know, it seems like they've discontinued the MT in particular, but they're still selling the rest of the Tenacity line, so the short course truck, the DB, and the Truggy. Probably going to be thinking about doing some things to the chassis, maybe doing some upgrades, changing the look up a little bit. There are some ideas I have out there. But yeah, overall, I'm quite pleased with this truck, having a lot of fun. I'm glad, you know, I picked this up. The Losi brand still kind of holds up to what it stands for, which is race-derived platforms, basically converted into RTR type basher vehicles. So as long as you keep that in mind and realize this is not an Arma, this is not something you want to send 30 feet in the air and do like double backflips and that kind of thing. It's really not meant for that. Has a little bit more of a race-derived type platform. It's something that you want to do a little more tuning, maybe race with your friends, that kind of thing in the backyard. That's really more of what it's meant for. So anyways, that's my review, the Losi Tenacity MT. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe to my channel, hit the add notifications button, share with your friends, and look for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.